Welcome to the PolyInnovator channel. This video is about what constitutes my DIY degree, which is simply just massively open online courses and open courseware. How they fit into it all, as well as what challenges you may be facing if you take them as well. As you may have assumed, I've used many different platforms as well as taken quite a few courses. Now, I will be frank, my usage has been more in the recent times, as when all these websites first came out, I didn't use that many back then. But I was first on the scene with many of the sites, at least. That being said, I have the skill of researching where I end up finding sites other people have no idea about. For example, one of my favorite gems of a website is theoldenproject.com, which does a fantastic job teaching how to code in ways I found to be much more intuitive than other sites. Overall, I think I may compile a list of course websites from my degree in the future so that people can use, maybe a PDF so they can download it for future reference. I'll let you know when that happens. The two main sites out there are edX and Coursera, which have the biggest selections of courses and degrees even. They each have their own levels of certifications as well, with comparable outcomes in the long run. Both have basic courses, and most of the certificates I list below, with the exception of usually the master's and bachelor's degrees, you can take the courses isolated as well, meaning any of the professional certificates, you can simply just take their respective courses on their own with their own specific cost. Both have master's degrees and starting to experiment with bachelor's as well. This is a great opportunity for many people, and I encourage you to consider it if you don't have a particular degree at any level. Then on the edX side, they have a thing called X Series, which acts like a deep dive into a topic. I actually have a few in my DIY degree, including one about smart cities. I think that is a really cool idea for people who just want to know about a particular topic or for their own interest. For me, it's about working in that area, and I haven't seen much on smart cities elsewhere. The next would be a professional certificate, which I presume would give the employer certainty that you would understand a concept rather well, especially since they are taught by top schools. The next level would be micro-credentials, which is this is a good time to bring up the other two platforms as well, FutureLearn and Udacity. Both of these are good on their own merit, and perhaps even a reputation in companies for being an alternative to a degree. However, their course list and their user base is smaller. Alright, when it comes to the micro-credentials, we have the following. Master Track or Specializations from Coursera, Nano Degrees from Udacity, simply called Programs from FutureLearn, and then finally, one of the more famous options is the MicroMasters from edX. Actually, one thing I'm actually currently taking now. I think you could constitute the programs to be an equivalent for graduate level work, and the other ones definitely are graduate level education. One thing to note is that earlier this year, edX filed a patent for micro-bachelors, which are supposed to be that level of education in a modular manner. I think this is going to make a big splash upon release. Each of these paths have actual academic worth as well, unlike the X Series or professional certificates, meaning that upon completion you could apply to that school without micromasters or programs in hand and get academic credit towards that school, towards a master's degree. The one exception would be nano degrees, which aren't advertised to be credit worthy. However, I have heard of schools like Western Governors University taking in a nano degree, like data science in particular, into their program as a class credit, so particularly only in that one class. I think the focus should be on these master track or micromasters, as they are more higher positioned pathways. They lead into many options. For one, the micromasters can lead to multiple different partner schools. Say you like a micromasters at MIT, but you want to go somewhere else. Well, more often than not, many schools accept that micromasters from a certain list of courses you can see on that specific page. I found a few micromasters from the University of Queensland that should theoretically combine together into a master's degree, meaning upon completion of them, then you could go to the graduate degree with only a couple courses left to finish. There was a lot of them into one particular pathway. A lot of micromasters will have a specific master's degree that you want to go towards after doing it, or that they will allow that credit to go towards. University of Queensland has a little bit more of an open approach where they have a interdisciplinary kind of masters where a lot of these different micromasters act as specializations for that master's degree, and they all end up being credit for it. I'm not sure if it'll go forth in that manner, but just out there. My main challenge is that you are generally required to have a bachelor's degree in order to be accepted. However, it should be noted that many top schools take in 2 to 3 students a year into their MBA programs without having a bachelor's or an undergraduate at all. Generally, they have equivalent experience, however. I have seen articles stating that one of the micromasters originating from MIT will lead into a blended master's program, which the only thing they require to be would be the micro-credential preceding it. Therefore, someone like me could possibly be accepted. Now, if I were to go to any college officially, I think this would be the main choice for me. I have a line in the script here, basically to break up the video a bit. This being said, I wanted to point out something. Coursera has an organizational issue on their website, the user flow, I guess you could say, where you can't often find many of these specializations or professional certificates. They're getting a little bit better on it, but meaning when you go to the website, the really only 2 things you can see are the courses and perhaps degrees. Though not all degrees are fully listed, and their master track or specializations are essentially hidden. Even when you search for them, they oftentimes will fill up your search feed with the courses within those specializations, making it hard to find the sources, meaning the actual specializations themselves. Master tracks seem to only have 2 options at the moment, although I could have sworn there were more in the past. Finally, we get to the weird portion where they have certain certificates like the edX series, edX X series, or ProCert that fit into a weird spot in the middle. They aren't worth credit, but oftentimes are worth a go for the information provided on their own. One thing they could learn from edX is how they organize their list. Right there on the drop-down menu, you can see all what edX has to offer. On another note, I think I will have to make multiple videos explaining all the websites I have found, as there are literally too many to list for programming alone. I have found many others for other topics, such as a Great Courses Plus, for example. This being said, I have not had a liking for those course curating sites, like Course Central, for example, mainly because they have a lot of expired information from my experience or conflicting agendas. Not to say they're bad by any means, but I found it much more useful to create my own list on Google Sheets, especially since I needed to save the links to all my courses that I have found. There are some sites that only have 1 course on them, but they are so good it deserves their own spot. I think having videos for each of these would be a good idea. What do you all think? Finally, let's get to OpenCourseWare, which to be honest, I didn't spend that much time on until recently. I started a MicroMasters in Data, Economics, and Development Policy, which happens to be by MIT, and they have some of the largest libraries of OpenCourseWare. Many other schools like Stanford hide behind a paywall for their courses, though conversely, many of the MIT OpenCourseWares are from 2011 or earlier, which with only a handful being 2016 or so. When I started this MicroMasters, I found some things to be difficult, but I also chose one of the easier courses to start off with to gradually transition into the work. I found it useful to go back to the OCWs to support my knowledge base, while still pursuing some of the courses from my degree, like economics. I found that many of my other videos from my course were just cut from OpenCourseWare, this particular course at least. Do not get me wrong, I do not think this is a bad thing. In fact, it's basically trimming the fat, figuratively speaking, and even added many quizzes and unique components to the course, making it well worth the time and money, in my opinion. Granted, I have only done this 1 course, and perhaps after finishing this one or others, I will have a different opinion. At the moment, I have a high opinion on MOOCs, OpenCourseWare, MicroMasters, and various sites. I hope that in the end, I end up being one of the first people to make their own modular degree in this way. The future of higher education is leaning towards individualized learning development as well as modular components to larger systems. I believe that about 3 people are going to follow my footsteps within the next few years, sparking a change that will become ever more present. Comment below what classes you have taken with any of these platforms. Goodbye.